This is the Advisory Committee on Sustainability regular meeting for May 10. We have a quorum and we're called to order. We have no public comment. We do not, going to skip the minutes since we're missing a couple people and go down a little bit to the focus of areas at the bottom of the agenda and start with leaf blowers and ordinances. And the way I wrote it in the agenda was to investigate leaf blower ordinances. I think, Mohan, just to set the stage and then get back to where you are and where Cliff is on this, because I'm at a what might make sense kind of place with this, that there are citizens
Well,
who
why don't we try to
complain.
ban on a Sunday? Probably
Well,
start
I mean,
there.
the different communities are doing different things. There are people who are approaching a noise problem, and there are people who are approaching
Right.
a health and emissions problem. So different communities are doing this different. They may be saying you can only have a certain number on an acre at a time. Some are saying you have to restrict the season. Some are saying you have to do this. Others are trying to get people to buy electric equipment. I went to an electric fair where you can buy electric leaf blowers and electric lawnmowers. And it's still infancy. It's not a full-blown thing yet, but it's evolving. And I think Tony, before we started the meeting, we're saying some states are banning certain kinds of equipment because they emit more than others do. And we don't have any of that information here, but there was an article in the Greenwich Times last week or 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of research that's been done and a lot of different approaches. So we're by no means in a position to recommend to our selectmen or the RTM they should go out and ban things yet. But does it make sense to gather the information on what we know and what communities in the state are doing in order to be able to talk about this?
I think so. First, I apologize for being late, and I sent Carolyn a text apologizing and saying I was on my way, and she's not here to tell you. Anyway, sorry for that. I think, as we've talked about this in the past, education is something that I think we've all agreed we want to do. We were going to try to get something published. It ended up that there was something well, I don't know if it was actually published, but he presented it for publication by Bill Cavers.
I think that was in the Darien magazine.
It did appear? Okay.
I think so.
Well, I don't receive that, so I wouldn't have seen it. So, I mean, I think we should definitely, so part of doing an educational campaign is also educating ourselves, I guess.
Exactly.
Most importantly, yeah.
And I think personally that we should also have as an objective formulating a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
And that can be informed by what other towns have successfully done, can be informed by anything. And it can be ambitious or it can be not so ambitious, like Dan's saying, maybe just a Sunday or something. I would actually love to see something more ambitious than that. The petition that you shared with us, as I sent around in an email comment on that, I felt as though, as lengthy as that thing was, it was ridiculously long. It didn't cover the whole topic adequately as far as I was concerned. That was one important part. The other important part was it was advocating something really quite unrealistic, a change
Correct.
at the end of this year, just boom,
Correct.
change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
Absolutely.
that as we look at what we might be able to recommend, my guess is that we would want to recommend something that's phased in, to allow, to be reasonable for all these lawn companies. They've got big investments in all that equipment, and you can't expect them to just flip overnight. And it's expensive for the town as well to change its ways. But I don't think that just because it's going to be difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And the sooner we start, the sooner that people can start planning and the phasing can begin. Because, I mean, if it's going to take, say, just for argument's sake, it's going to take 5 years to phase this thing in. Maybe that's the
Easily.
remaining life on some of this equipment. I don't know, it's going to take 5 years. Well, let's get that clock started.
Right. I also think the equipment is changing, and I agree. The woman's petition was long. She keeps updating it, and I just got another copy of it yesterday. And I I think there is information that's useful in her in her thing, and I'll make sure I'll send it around so everybody has. I think it sounds like we would all agree that if any of us wish to start, maybe we can break it up into either facts about the different kinds of equipment, or facts about the health issues, or what the other communities are doing. We could each take a little piece and then report back on what we're learning. I think like I said, the Greenwich was looking at I believe Greenwich was looking at the noise, and it ended up bringing up questions of health that sent it back to the health department again. So I don't think there's any easy thing that's going to happen. And I think that over time, you can educate people by letting them know where there's good equipment, that if you're a homeowner, you can replace your own equipment over time and buy an electric leaf blower or whatever it is. So I see a bunch of different stuff over time. And I'm very nervous about recommending that we suggest an ordinance. But I do think we should recommend knowing what the hazards are and thinking about what a reasonable plan over time might be, Cliff. I think it's important, and it's a huge health problem. And I hear them I live on quarter-acre lots, and with 12 quarter-acre lots, there isn't a minute that doesn't go by that somebody doesn't have because everybody has their own lawn guy and they come at different times. But I do think the health issue is what people are breathing in is real, and making that clear is information. That's not an ordinance yet. And the statistics about how much goes into the atmosphere versus cars is staggering. So I think beginning to get the facts right before we even talk about Mohan, I see you nodding your head to that we need to do some homework, with the idea that we could put some sort of position towards the town later on. And Carolyn said that the nature center might be interested in having a conversation with the community about this. Norwalk's going through that now. So I see this as a year of conversation, maybe.
One of the things I think, as Cliff was talking about this phasing in, I was thinking about in the context of the EV also. One of the things we could recommend, maybe, if you're going to invest in new equipment, can you please not buy a gas power, right? I mean, that could be an easy win, saying, please don't invest because you know it. Again, that's a part of the education, which I don't think people would be so objectionable to those things where they're going to invest anyway. Why wouldn't you make a good investment versus a bad investment and get into,
Right.
concerns? And yeah, so I think I do agree completely. It has to be planned. It has to be thought through, because as much as we want to do things the right way, do the right things, unless we do it the right way, there will be blowback, and it's all not going to be a good thing to do. Yeah.
I did see a lawn company that invested in their whole square truck, and they put solar on the roof.
Yeah.
And so they plug all their stuff in and they recharge it and they
Nice.
use it, and they're marketing their business that way. And the comment from the owner of the business was that the guy who rides the big lawn tractor kind of thing thought would be very negative to this, but doesn't want to ride anything else anymore because it's so quiet.
Yeah.
So
Well,
from
there's
that point of view, there might be, so I think a lot of kind of gathering the experiences
Yeah.
of other communities. You just cannot throw this on
Yes.
commercial businesses as a ban, but can we begin to
Yeah.
figure out what people are doing to make a transition? I don't know where government funds will fall into this, but is there anybody who would like? Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Could we agree that we'd each kind of put a one page of information together for our next meeting that we could kind of begin to share? Does that make any sense, just among ourselves at this point?
For what?
Well,
Sorry.
I think, Kathy, that
Leaf blowers.
Okay.
your comment earlier about the different topics within this, health, equipment, and what other towns are doing. I mean, if we're
Yep.
going to all go off and do something, I think we should
Exactly.
be focused. I did also want to say that the people who are riding these lawnmowers are breathing in horrible, horrible toxins, and they're
Agreed.
also subjected to really loud noise. So, I mean, I would think the operators themselves, maybe not the owners of the companies, but the operators themselves would love to get away from this horrible equipment.
Right.
And it's not just leaf blowers. I mean, her email focused on lawnmowers, if I'm not mistaken.
Both. And again, okay, so does someone want to look in and put just a brief summary of the health? Cliff, do you want to take that angle?
I'll do it. I think we mostly have it, but
Okay, then we could put it all on one document and share it on the screen and begin to have it for everybody to have common knowledge.
Good. Yep.
Mohan, you want to take a
Yeah, I was
piece
gonna
of
say,
this?
yeah, that's why I was just gonna say, Cliff, whatever you have, you can share because we don't want to repeat the work for no good reason.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So then we can take a look, and then from that perspective, I can look at the emission itself,
Yeah, why don't you
impact
do that?
carbon emission piece. What would be, yeah.
And I'll look at what the other towns are doing because I sit
Yeah.
in on the Sustainable Fairfield County and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, all
Yeah.
right, I don't want to make anyone panic that we're putting a law into place as this petition was suggesting, but I do think if you look at Sustainable CT and as well as what our peer communities are doing, people are thinking about it. And I would hope that we just want to be educated. Okay, so I see that caller 01 has joined, and would that person be willing to identify themselves? Hello? Hello?
Hello, this
I
is
don't.
Luz Bueno.
Okay, Luz.
I actually in the schedule the meeting was not published that it was going to be virtual, and there was no link provided. So I don't know what the motivation for that is.
Ms. Bueno? Ms. Bueno?
Yes.
There is no motivation. I send the material to the town last Friday, and I know that and I sent it to the committee, and the committee members are all here. If something did not happen on the town side, I'm sure it was an error. The meeting was scheduled and the agenda was written and posted as it was supposed to be. I apologize.
It
We're
was
in the middle
not.
of the
It's
meeting.
not
It,
posted.
it, the meetings are scheduled for the whole year. If the agenda and the link was not posted, I apologize. That was not intentional. There was some mistake. We're in the middle of the meeting. So at the end of the meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, I will allow you to do that. In the meantime, we're going to continue with our business, okay? And I'll put you on mute for now.
Kathy, I just wanted to make sure I understand. Mohan, what did you say you're going to do? If I do the health piece, are you doing the equipment piece?
I was going to look at the whole emission aspect, Cliff.
Yeah.
What's the emission factor? How much it's emitting? What's the carbon price and all the other stuff, which is really could be tangible. Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Like I said, the material that's been reported out, both I will send Bill Taver's article, the
Right.
Greenwich Times article, this petition, much has been written. But we as a committee haven't kind of consolidated it to have any kind of understanding.
I would make sure to separate two-stroke from four-stroke engines. There's going to be a big difference in emissions. Because
Got
a
it.
two-stroke, when you smell a two-stroke engine, the smell that we all connect to, lawnmowers and things like the blowers, is a two-stroke engine smell. It's a four-stroke or much cleaner. So.
Thank you. Okay, let's just leave that for now, as we will continue to gather information on lawn equipment and their emissions and their health impact. can we move on down on our focus, collaborating with schools? So I wonder if, Cliff, you ever received any input?
You know, I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm really disappointed. I mean, everybody tells me that our superintendent of schools is a really nice fellow, and certainly my interaction with him, he was very nice, and he encouraged me to write him. I wrote, I heard nothing. I waited, I think, about 3 weeks, and then I sent it to him again. And I also called the office, and someone there said they would make sure that he saw it. And there's been at least 2 weeks since then, and I haven't heard anything. So that's the current status.
Okay, and I did send it to the facilities person as well.
And did that
One of,
person respond?
no. One of the things from, and that what we're discussing was whether or not the schools would sit down and have a conversation about planning for future, diversion of food waste in the cafeterias. And one of the things that's being talked about in the communities, again, all around us, is not only separating the food scraps, but saving reusable food. And many of the local communities do have food donation tables, and then the food is picked up and taken. So the separating the food scraps from the garbage is a piece of it. The second piece of it could be the food that can be sent through, like Food Rescue US, that Wilton, Norwalk, a number of these communities, Stamford Greenwich already do this. So we just keep at it. Maybe we try, maybe we just send those letters to the Board of Ed. I do know that the other thing is from one of Carolyn's texts, there are women in the schools, the elementary schools, that are interested in this topic. And as your letter had said, we would be interested in trying to plan for a pilot to separate food. We have, between Sustainable CT, with those foods, the grants I mentioned earlier in this call, the money that we have from the NIP bottles, that is for waste reduction, and Center for Eco Technologies, that's working with communities and trying to work with us with restaurants. We could find help in setting up a pilot. And the question is, how do we speak to somebody in the schools? And anybody have any?
Kathy, I'll make call the chairman. I know him very well, and I'll find out what's going on.
Yeah, if there's anybody who'd be willing to
Chairman
sit down and
Quarterback.
have a conversation about food scrap recycling,
Exactly.
and
I'll give him a call next couple of days.
we can share with them the programs in many districts throughout the state of Connecticut.
Exactly. Yeah, let me find out what's going on.
Okay,
Is
that'd
that the
be great.
chairman of the Board of Education you're talking about?
Yes, Board of Duke Janine.
Okay. And
Yeah,
I
and it
think
would,
we also talked about getting some PTA involved.
that's the royal connection that Carolyn has made, where they
Right.
gave them bins at their spring festival or Earth Day. They did some.
And also see if we can meet with the board.
Yeah, I mean, that the thing to do would be to actually have a conversation and a presentation to the Board of Education
Exactly.
on what is happening in surrounding communities based on the crisis for waste management that we started with in all of our talks, and how food is a part of that, and how many school systems are approaching it from both the food waste reduction, food waste and cost savings, and an educational. You turn it into an educational component. We have presentations galore from other communities with the photographs of what they're doing and how they're doing it and where they've gotten their money. And Darien is very far behind, unless they're doing this without us knowing about it. Most districts are doing something.
They're not, as far as I know.
Okay. All right. So the to-dos on that would be, Dan is going to make a call. I will also share. Cliff, do you want to reshare your letter with the members of this committee that you sent to, I don't know that you shared it with everybody. Would you send the letter that you sent to Dr. Adley to the committee? Because it was very well written, kind of laid out the case and what we would ask to do if we talked.
Yeah, I'll send it out.
Okay, that'd be great. And if Carolyn were here, she might have some context on possibly talking to the Royal School, because I think if you're piloting something and you have parents that are interested, it creates a way to have something happen where the parents could be part of the planning and part of the dialogue. But we're missing Carolyn today. Okay. Last item on the agenda really comes back to the EV fleets, and Mohan, you want to just explain to the committee the conversation you've had with Tony? And after we
Yeah.
do that, I have one thing about buses.
Yeah. So yeah, we have kicked off our EV conversation. It's really a broad conversation, right? So there is a town fleet, which is the town owned cars and vehicles and others. So that's one aspect. So we need to do something with them. That's one. The second piece is, okay, EV infrastructure which goes with it. So whether that EV infrastructure need to be specific to the town vehicles and the public, and that's second big topic. The third topic really is around, is there something we can do to really encourage people to purchase, at least when they buy new vehicles, buy EV, etc. I think best Tony and I had Tony. Thank you for sending that note today. So I think where we need to go really is put together a comprehensive, I would say, a proposal. Meaning, how do we tackle each of these, and also look at each of the problems. So, what does it take for us to transition at least some part of our town fleet, which is more of a under control within, we can work with the town committee, etc., than really working with elsewhere, right? So we're going to continue that conversation. And Kathy, certainly we looked at some of the subsidies available, some of the encouragements through IRA or otherwise. I spoke to some people the last weekend. The things are still maturing, meaning the grants may not be directly available. Tony, I don't know if you heard from anyone. The IRA grants may not be directly available to towns through the federal government. They all have to go through state is the first step. Some of them they may make available. So that's still evolving. It's not fully flushed out yet because they're putting all those regulations in place. So what we intend to do is really in the next few weeks, I'll continue to work with Tony, and certainly anybody else is welcome. I think I have Kathy, I have invited to that meeting we have at 1:30 today. If anyone is interested to participate in the conversation, you're most welcome. Otherwise, we will feed back to you, and that's absolutely fine. My intent right now is to work for the next few weeks with Tony as needed and others, at least put together a proposal, which then we can all review, amend as needed, and then maybe present to the first selectman and that team to say what their feedback is. So that's where we are. All I can say is we have the inventory of 105 vehicles. That's how much we own in town today. Quickly, I looked at them. There are 29 vehicles which were purchased before 2013, meaning they're 10 years old. The question now we have to think about is, okay, fine, forget about even subsidies. There are other things which can happen or may not. Just in the same lines of the leaf blowers, if we are making any new purchase, we should be really thoughtful about it and see what does it take. If we have to buy one more fossil fuel powered vehicle, there has to be really a good case of why that cannot be EV. Again, those are the conversations we need to have, put together a framework, then we can share with everyone. So sorry, Tony, I was going to talk to you some of this in our meeting, but I think I just thought maybe I'll say it
Yeah,
here.
I mean, I'm not, yeah, I wasn't thinking we were meeting today, but that's me.
That was next Wednesday.
Next
Is
week.
it next
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So to follow on to that, Mohan,
Yeah.
we work very closely with Sustainable CT, and they
Yes.
run a lot of programs. And on May 19 at 10 a.m., and I registered for this, Sustainable CT is having a coffee hour And the description is federal IRA and ILGA grant opportunities can feel complicated and overwhelming.
Yep.
You know, how can you figure out which grants for your town? What help do you need? Join us virtually to learn about the many no-cost support tools available from Sustainable CT and partners. More importantly, tell us what you need to be able to successfully win grant money from the unprecedented investment in municipal infrastructure, clean energy, and more. So I intend to go to that myself. It will be 1 hour. I presume it will be taped. There are 2 others they've just had that look really interesting on how to use the mini liquor bottle money. And there was another one. Oh, I'm blanking at the moment, but I think we all kind of can use anyone that's looking to understand how this grant money is being given out and where there were resources, that this might be a good webinar to attend or to be able to, we all still have access to all of Sustainable CT stuff. And that will bring me back to the fact that they're offering their community match fund money, which again, if you raise money, they'll give you money. And in addition to what they do for any project, be it an electric vehicle project, they're giving, and I said this before, I said this at the very beginning before you were all on, they're boosting they're giving $1.50 for every dollar you can raise up to $15,000 for composting and food scrap recycling programs through Sustainable CT. So I feel like we need to find something specific that the town would be willing to do. I have asked Monica to sit down to get her insight on the food scrap side. She said she agreed to meet. That's not the EV side, but we need to start letting them know there is money here that we will be leaving on the table if we don't kind of start to go for it. And I know our staff looks very carefully at it, but there's a lot out there at the moment. So if I learn anything, Tony, on Wednesday, I'll let you know. If you feel like joining or getting the link afterwards, I can certainly share it with you for the
Yeah,
federal
so
grant.
yeah, I will either join you or get the link after
Okay.
to watch this. If I could just give my comments kind of
Sure,
Mohan
please
and
do.
I back and forth. So,
Yep.
you know, over the last couple of years, I've looked into a bunch of different things concerning EVs. So, you know, buying cars ourselves, putting in chargers just for ourselves, putting in chargers just for the public, putting in chargers that we and the public share. And so really what I need to kind of continue on is like, what's our primary goal? What's the primary goal of the town? I think eventually it'll be all of it, but what's the first thing we want to work on? Is it
Absolutely.
just fleet cars that the town operates and chargers just for the town? Is it strategically placed chargers, whether at the train stations or the park or anywhere else anyone can think of, at the grocery store? I don't even know. You know, public access to EV chargers. So that's, you know, it's not monolithic. It's not, oh, let's do EV. Okay, let's go do it. You know, what's going to work for us primarily, and then secondarily, what's our short-term goal, long-term goal? Because I can't jump to the finish line as my first step. You know, I need to know what that first step is.
And it may sound like that's what the enthusiastic people in this virtual meeting are thinking, but no, I think we all understand that that this is a multifaceted project. And
Yeah.
even the people, as I said to you, Tony, on our our discussion, our kind of subgroup conversation, that EVs, that the infrastructure piece and the fleet piece, while they overlap, are not the same thing, and that the third piece of it is often the zoning and the ruling that comes from other departments as to where you put these things. I had I have put in a request for clarification on the program I told you about that looked like didn't have a lot of restrictions and was through Eversource that you said make ready, but I think there's something else, and I'm looking for clarification on that to see if we're talking the same thing
Yeah,
or
I think
not.
you're gonna find it's only make ready, but I hope it's more, and that's awesome that you're looking into.
Yeah, that's why I need to
Yeah,
what I was presented didn't have restrictions on controls of things you had to do back for the company. It was literally funding up to $20,000 of the work, the infrastructure, the digging, the
yes,
work to
that's the make
put the
ready.
stuff
Yep,
in.
yep. So
Just
I
to,
did
Okay,
have
I'll look into that.
I did have a
just to
call
add to
yesterday.
Tony,
Yep,
just to add to what you said, if you can get even one vehicle in the next 6 months for the town fleet, it's okay. I think end of the day, right? So we got to be practical about how we do these things. So any low hanging fruits, whatever we can influence, is what. That's why I do like your idea. Let's draw out that framework. Let's draw out that plan and a proposal, which everybody can agree on, and then see how can we chip away with this big mountain, because we cannot carry the mountain to start with.
right.
Is there any
And
direction, Tony, from the community to you at this point? Like, we need to replace 3 cars in the police fleet, or we have employees that have electric vehicles, we need something at town hall? I mean, it could be as specific as something like that. Is there
no,
any direction yet?
it's more like, hey, we want to do this. We don't know how we want to do it. You know, the police. I talked to the captain the other day, and a year ago there was some initial thought we're going to do this, and some surrounding communities have done it, and couldn't say that they really like it. There's no plans right now for the police to do it. So I think what Mohan's saying is right. I think we got to kick something off. It,
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's never as easy as it sounds. Okay, we got to
Nope.
budget the money. How much grant money we're going to get, I don't know. We got to put in the chargers and do some construction, and that's make sure we have that set up. So never as easy as it sounds, but we can't. We got to start. We got to start with one. We can't start with 10. We got to start with one. So um,
I will tell you, a year ago, I'm not so sure that anyone would have even articulated as clearly as yet you just did, even that philosophy. So I I
and then
think, Tony, there is
one more
movement.
thing. I did have a call yesterday with that Beam Global.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the solar uh, charging stations that fit in one parking spot. They're very impressive. And I said, I may be calling you to come on to one of these meetings and give
Sure.
a little
Yep.
mini blurb of what we have. But that's only if the direction is uh, that we want to have uh, public charging facilities out there in strategic locations. That's why,
Yep.
like I don't want to waste this. I don't want to keep going if that's not the direction we're going. If it is the direction we're going, I'm kind of excited about it. But so that's where I stand.
Okay. We are getting very close to the end of our meeting, and I did want to mention an event, another event, 2 events. First is, do you have a cohort in the school relative to the same subject of EVs, but do you have a cohort that may or may not be looking through their contract work, which I think is coming up on the buses? Because again, there was a meeting yesterday with the EPA on the round of funding for electric school bus grant money, because towns in Connecticut have about 10 years to move their fleets. And so there was a presentation yesterday through Live Green, and I missed it, but I'm sure I can get the information. Who
So
on the school side, forget the food scraps for a minute, but who works with, is it the director of finance? Is it the
so I work with
superintendent?
Kevin. Yeah, I work with Kevin Barrett sometimes. We talk here and there
Yes.
when our paths cross, and and interests collide. So I'm not sure if he does buses, but he's the director of facilities. He would certainly maintain the buses, I'm guessing. Actually, I think he does. He manages the bus drivers, so I'm thinking he would
It
know
would be
about
Kevin.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Carolyn and I met with him about recycling once. I think it's probably time to call Kevin again. All right, thank you. Last thing that I had on the list, just a little FYI, Soundwaters in Stamford opened its new facility recently, and they're offering what looked like a really interesting talk about how to teach about climate and the environment and sustainability in curriculum. And it's Monday evening at, I believe, 6 o'clock at their new center. It's on their website, and their speakers include teachers from Stamford, a couple of communities, and is his name Ira Glass, the Science Friday person, is one of the presenters, and the director of Soundwaters, who's been with them for many, many years. So if you know anybody for whom that topic is interesting, or have a teacher or favorite science teacher or anything, you might want to, I'll send the link when we get off the call, but it came to me via email with Soundwaters that I'm involved with. And Mohan, I sent it to Climate Reality Project, and they sent it out because it is a really interesting conversation about talking to kids. And Soundwaters has a brand new facility, so this is in their new facility, and they've got some sort of, I think, heavy duty science teacher person coming. So
Very
that's,
nice.
so I wanted to mention that. Got a little bit late start. We had a caller who may or may not have a public comment, and we have about a couple minutes left. I'm gonna unmute her if she has anything to say. Otherwise, we will adjourn. I don't know how to unmute her. Can her? No. Call her. Unmute her. Are you there, Ms. Bueno?
I think she's still muted, according to the little video here.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
not. I'm
maybe.
not.
Why don't you invite her to unmute herself?
She would have to. I'm not. I can't seem to do it. All right.
There's at the bottom of your screen, there's a picture of a microphone,
Right.
and if you click on that, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I don't know if she's there or not. Okay, so is there anything else? We have a minute left, or we will adjourn. Shall we? We will adjourn. Any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Christine seconded it. I think we will adjourn the meeting. Turn off the recording. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.